Since the release of the puppet episode on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it feels as though there's been a degree of re-evaluation of the show by some of its defenders. And I say some, obviously some of the show's fans would be quick to write this episode off as a creative misstep and move on from it. And of course there's some people who loved it as well, but generally speaking, there's no defending Strange New Worlds anymore in my opinion. The show's first season was okay, but it had problems. The second season started the gimmick episodes, including a musical and a crossover with Lower Decks, which was very self-aware. And from there on, it just got worse. The show is now producing pastiches or homages to popular films from other genres, be it the likes of Event Horizon, The Hangover, Dude, Where's My Car, Casablanca, or The Muppets. It has seemingly lost its own sense of identity, and certainly the writers don't appear to be even remotely attempting to draw inspiration from Star Trek. The puppet episode Level 5 Transporter Accident marks an important moment in the show's history due to the overwhelmingly negative response it received. And it's not just one bad gimmick episode in isolation. The discussion about the episode has highlighted the consistent pattern of gimmick episodes on this show, mostly since the second season, and the attempts by the writers to turn the series into anything but Star Trek, it seems. Now, I've discussed before how the writers seem to be heavily inspired and influenced by Joss Whedon shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and this would of course explain some of the dialogue on the show, which feels very Whedon-esque, quippy dialogue, and of course it would also explain the musical episode in Season 2 and this season's puppet episode, because of course there had been a Buffy musical, and there had been an episode where Angel was turned into a puppet. In this story, Scotty tries to beam a puppet farther than anything has ever been beamed before. It goes wrong, and for no reason, the entire crew are turned into puppets. Because, well, why not? It's not like anyone's caring about suspension of disbelief here. Spock must help the puppet crew of the Enterprise run the ship and overcome the Orions, with all manner of puppet wacky hijinks ensuing. In the end, it turns out, and I think this just makes it so much worse, none of the crew were actually turned into puppets at all, because in the end, a truly innovative bit of storytelling happens. It turns out it was all just a dream. What a revelatory plot twist. Spock was just hallucinating the whole thing. The end. And no, I'm not joking. That was actually the story. The utter absurdity of the episode, along with the recent abysmal installments like the episode that was an homage to both The Hangover and Dude, Where's My Car, or the Casablanca ripoff, has sort of cast a new light on this series now. Given that there's only 10 episodes per season, and by the show's end, there will only be 46 episodes produced across 5 seasons, that will mean that the gimmick format breaker episodes really stand out. Perhaps more than any other episodes. They stand out when compared to the more serious episodes. When you think of the more light-hearted episodes on The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, or Voyager, those episodes may be memorable, but they aren't the episodes that immediately spring to mind when you think of those shows. And I think this is a critical point. Those series did so many more episodes per season, and when you think of those series, you think of the episodes that really exemplified them. You think of the best sci-fi stories, the most thought-provoking or dramatic stories. Now, you might fondly remember the more humorous, lighter ones, but they were merely a welcome departure from the average type of episode. They didn't define those series. However, Strange New Worlds is the opposite. It will be remembered primarily for the goofy, gimmicky, comedy parody episodes. Those episodes define Strange New Worlds. It will be remembered for trying to be something other than Star Trek. That will be its legacy. which is the writers seemed more at home, more comfortable writing stories that didn't feel like Star Trek. You know, I said it before, they didn't get Spock. They didn't get Spock right. They made him the sort of the awkward kid in the class who everybody looked down upon. The show always felt like it was bordering on breaking the fourth wall, especially when it came to that Lower Decks crossover. Too many in-jokes and tongue-in-cheek, self-aware remarks. And in the puppet episode, the self-awareness is so bad that they even parody one of Star Trek's most important, iconic, and profound moments, Spock's death scene in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. They do a tongue-in-cheek parody of this, where Pike says goodbye to Spock inside an airlock, and they both place their hands on either side of the glass, and Spock makes the Vulcan live long and prosper hand sign, and Pike says, "The needs of the many," and then he gets sucked out the airlock. So it seems on this show that nothing is sacred in Star Trek. Even one of its most beloved and serious moments can be turned into a joke. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the thinking behind this episode was little more than, well, we haven't done puppets yet, so let's do that, as opposed to it being something that actually fit into the world of Star Trek or has some significant reason for being. Now, by contrast, in the Angel episode Smile Time in Season 5, Angel is turned into a puppet due to a spell by demons who have possessed puppets. Okay, so it was a magic spell. These demons are running a TV show aimed at kids. It's called Smile Time, and they're sucking the life force out of them through the television. It's a very good commentary on kids being stuck unsupervised watching TV all day. Throughout literary history and mythology, there have been stories of demons and spirits possessing dolls and puppets and children's toys coming to life in horror stories, that sort of thing. This kind of story works well for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel because those shows are supernatural and paranormal shows. So you don't have any difficulty suspending disbelief. But doing this on Star Trek is a very different matter entirely. And I would also add that Angel being made a puppet in that episode was not only hilarious, but it didn't feel like a cheap gag because of the plot and the particular antagonists in that episode. But moreover, Angel's transformation into puppet form actually fit thematically into the story of that season, in particular, Angel's arc. Several times throughout Season 5, Angel had been referred to as a puppet of the senior partners because he joined Wolfram and Hart. And Wesley's father, who wasn't actually Wesley's father, but that's another matter, referred to Angel as a puppet for that very reason. Because Angel was unknowingly doing the bidding of the senior partners, and he was often criticized by Spike and Lindsay for selling out and no longer being the avenging hero of humanity. So turning him into a puppet was a literal manifestation and commentary on Angel's state at that point in the series. And that's what was so genius about doing it. It worked on multiple levels. By comparison, there had been no deeper thinking to the puppet episode on Strange New Worlds beyond, let's do this for the sake of it because it'll be kind of funny. I think if it were not for all of these gimmick episodes, take the gimmick episodes out of Strange New Worlds, and the show would probably have been remembered as a not great but kind of okay, often subpar entry into the franchise with a few actually pretty decent episodes here and there. Instead, the presence of so many gimmick episodes in what will be, as I say, only 46 episodes by the end of the show has meant it'll likely be remembered as another low point in the franchise's recent history. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.